So what I'd like to do is kind of talk about the situation right now a little bit, looking in 2014, and give a little quick update, kind of what we've estimating as far as costs and returns go at this point. And of course, y'all know those things can change a little bit from day to day, but we've got the updated numbers on peanut production. Last week, USDA came out, NAS released their annual crop production report, and they raised some of the estimates on production. So we had a little bit bigger crop than maybe that was reported, or the last estimates from November anyway. U.S. acres was raised by about 9,000 to 1,067,000, but the bigger change came in the yields. And you know, it wasn't 2012, but it was still the second highest yields on record. Not the second highest production, but second highest yields on record. Brought us up over 2 million tons production. The U.S. yield came in right at 2 tons, and that's a little less than 200 pounds from the previous record. But it was raised over 200 pounds from the November estimate. Georgia also raised their yield estimate to 4,430 pounds, and that's, you know, it's closer to what the Federal State Inspection, their tonnage report, was showing. When you look at Federal State Inspection report, you can't say that's the average yield for Georgia, because you've got peanuts going across state lines, and that'll be looked at. Dr. Fletcher's going to be looking at some of that, but the official final estimate for 2013 for Georgia was 4,330 pounds. And what's that going to do? That, like I said, it brings us up over 2 million ton carryover, and that's going to basically keep us at over 1 million tons. The 2 million ton production, that's going to keep us over 2 million tons carryover. Looking at this marketing year, exports will be down because China's not in the market like they were last year. Domestic use, do see some positive news there, but overall use will be down mainly because of the decrease in exports. When you look at acres, you know, we've been in a downward trend on acres over time, and that's a testament to the increased productivity, our higher yields. But you can point out or pick out what's happened, you know, since 2005, where we've seen a lot of variability, been in that boom bust cycle as far as acreage goes, and the Southeast drives the acres. You can see the Southwest has been in a downtrend, and probably will not, you know, don't expect that trend to change much. We have Arkansas coming in to pick up some of that acreage. The VC pretty much kind of stable because they're growing for pretty much for a different market than the Southeast. They're growing for the in-shells. But when you look at the Southeast acres, you can see where the variability is coming from. It's coming from Georgia. As we adjust acres on the large scale, we're basically driving what the U.S. acres are. And so this past year we dropped acres in Georgia about 41%, from 735,000 to 430,000. Alabama and Florida also dropped their acres over 35%, from 210, 220 to 140,000. And you can see Mississippi in here also growing about 34,000 acres last year. So overall, we had a 35% drop in acres for the U.S. from 1.6 million roughly to a little over 1 million. And the Southeast, we went down to 745,000, which was pretty close to what we grew in Georgia as a whole the previous year, as far as acres go. In terms of yield, what about trying to project a yield for next year? I've shown you this before, but going back to 1990, just trying to maybe estimate a trend yield, and if we just do a linear trend and plug in the numbers for 2014, we would expect about a 37.75 for the U.S. So, you know, our trend yields would say we're going to expect a yield lower than what we've done the last 2 years, mainly because of previous years. But when you look at what's driving it, the Southeast, we've been in a strong uptrend, and while the Southwest has been flat, that explains why their acreage has been declining. And so, when I try to start making estimates for next year, that's kind of probably a starting point. That's probably where you're going to see USDA come out somewhere close to that type figure. So here's our supply and demand situation. The bar is showing the use, the food use being the blue part, the green part is exports, the purple is crush, and the gray is seed and residual, shrink, all that figured in there. And so because of exports, we had a record use last year. We expect that to come down because of the loss in Chinese purchases. But we got a lot of peanuts still in supply. This purple bar is the carryover. The tons that we carry over at the end of the marketing year into the next marketing season. So at the end of July, it's projecting 2014 to be about 1.147 million tons. Now that could change a little bit as we see updated numbers in food use and exports, but that's kind of where USDA's projection is right now. So to kind of summarize, food use is expected to be up by 5%, and that's mainly being driven by candy and snacks, not peanut butter. So if peanut butter can pick up some more, that possibly could help us on the domestic side. Exports down 35%. China, if you saw one of Tyron Spearman's recent newsletters, India's got a big crop, and so prices down. And so they'll be exporting their peanuts back into China again. And so China came in last year because they needed peanuts, and we had the peanuts, and we were a low price at that time. Now our prices are back into that same level on the shelled prices as last year, but we haven't seen any activity yet as far as exports go to China. However, Argentina, they've had some production problems, so we hopefully will pick up some exports into Europe, be more competitive there. So that hopefully will be a little growth there. Our number one destinations are Canada and Mexico, and we should see strong exports in those countries as our peanuts go there, and then they're processed and come back as a processed product. So overall, we're looking at total use being about 2.4 million tons. We produced just a little over 2 million tons last year. And so we're working down to carryover, but still carrying over a lot of peanuts. This is the latest stocks to use report, the end of December, showing August 2013 through November 2013. Use numbers of shelled edible kernels. They didn't report the candy because they didn't want to release potentially information that could identify an individual manufacturer. So they didn't report candy that the last report. But it's been positive. It's been in double digits. Snacks, you can see, is up by 12.6%. Peanut butter down. Now peanut butter is our largest category, most times about 50%, and then your candy and snacks, if you want a rough estimate, they're about 25% each. They fluctuate from year to year, where one might be 18, one might be over 25%. But the encouraging thing is 4.6% increase in our edible kernels. And so while our exports are not expected to be as high as last year, you can see exports came in at a really good time last year when we had such a high burden carryover. So trying to project next year, the blue part is USDA estimates for the current marketing season, the 2013 crop that gets marketed into 2014. You see we're just under 2.1 million ton production. With the carry-in that we had, about 3.5 million ton supply and about 1,147 carryover. If we looked at 3,750 pound, 3,775 pound yield with a 10% increase in acres, that put us up about 1.14 million with a about a 2.5% abandonment rate. That'd be a 2.16 million ton crop. That number got changed. But anyway, that would actually bring us down to about 1 million ton carryover, and that's what I'm looking at, is about 1 million ton carryover to next year. And you know, as you go up in yield and acres, 15% more acres might be where we're at, depending on how contracts fared later on in the season. Okay. So talking about contracts, we know the 425 has been out there. There's also some contracts where you have a minimum and a maximum, or you can share in the profits or the price throughout the season. Kind of a price your own, set your price type contract, flex price contract, and also the premium for high oleics. And so we've been getting a couple questions about the Georgia 09B in particular. I think the early contract 425 is to see how many takers there'd be. It also might be a signal that, you know, it's going to be 500 might not be as likely, and really that's because of where prices are with cotton and corn right now. You know, if a few takers, then I think that'll send the manufacturers we need more, at least 450 or more, to get the crop planted. On the Georgia 06G and the 09B, this is data that from Dr. Beasley and Dr. Tubbs and those that on some variety testing out at under the RDC pivot just across the road. And I ran it at 425 and adjusted it for the grades. And basically 06G comes out a little bit better at the 425. We did see about 2 points difference over those 3 years in grade, and that may have to do, I don't know if it has anything to do with when it was, if they were both harvested at the same time or if they were at different date. I didn't get that information when the data came, but you can kind of look and see where the other high oleics are too. They're all pretty close in terms of value at the 425. When I look at it at the variety test data, and Dr. Prosco and Dr. Tubbs and I and Dr. Colworth in the last couple of days have been emailing back and forth and talking about difference between 06G and 09B. Shaded in the right, that's the irrigated for the last 2 years on the statewide variety test, and on the left is non-irrigated. And the blues means that right here, 06G did better after taking, I just went ahead and took a discount on grades, assuming there might be 2 points difference. In that case, 06G did better than 09B, including the $50 a ton premium. Under irrigation, it shows somewhat of an advantage. 09B did better, including that $50 premium. But the thing that's not in here is the risk. And we had some training yesterday talking about 09B, and 09B has to have good management. You have to stay timely with it and Dr. Tubbs can speak to that if y'all got questions. So the risk there is not, the uncertainty on how 09B does under different conditions where it's being managed well in these tests and timely. What does it look like under those situations? I know this is probably hard to see, but we've got the crop comparison tool updated. contacted county agents, and to get a copy, it'll be posted on the UGA Peanuts website. But looking at irrigated, we updated the peanut budget and went ahead. We had 4,500 pound yield last year. That was raised from previous year, but with the 06G being at 80% of the acres or better, felt like we needed to raise it again to 4,700 pounds. I used a 440 average, and I did this a little while ago thinking that we probably would see 425 kind of to 450 at the beginning. So that might be maybe an average over the season with what we're looking at now. Used 460 for corn. That may be a little optimistic, but I feel like in South Georgia we're going to do a little better than North Georgia in terms of prices. Soybeans used 1080 and 414 for sorghum and 565 on wheat. And basically at those yields, 1,200 pound cotton and 200 bushel corn and 60 bushel beans. Peanuts comes out best, followed by cotton, and then even soybeans versus corn in those scenarios. You know, of course, I encourage you to use that and go put in your numbers, your cost numbers, to see what it looks like. And remember, this is returns above variable cost, so that's not profit down there. That's above variable cost. That doesn't include fixed cost and land rent, but you know, plant decision should be driven by what variable costs are. On the dry land, we raised it to 3,400 and 750 on cotton, and so again, peanuts looks a little better even at those prices. How about what price do you need to equal that kind of estimate? Well, on non-irrigated cotton, we'd need above 80 cents and need at least 76 cents on irrigated cotton using those yields. So as the market goes up, you know, if we see cotton market improve a little bit, if we get back up to 78 cents to 80 cents, then you know, peanuts hopefully can come out with a little better price on contracts. On corn, basically going to need above $5 to kind of be equal to peanuts at those yields. And on soybeans, basically it's going only irrigated would be competitive with where prices are right now on soybeans. At 11.50, we'd need 11.50 to equal 440 on a peanut contract. So to end up with kind of a projection on acres, Dr. Shirley feels like we'll drop a little bit in cotton or stay the same. Corn, I feel like we're going to drop back below 400. I put in 385. We might be up 15% in peanuts. Grain sorghum probably about the same. Up some in soybeans. J. Michael Moore thinks we might be at 13,000 on tobacco, and we planted, according to wheat seedings report, 270,000 acres of wheat. So I would think we'd have more soybeans coming in if we had more wheat acres planted this coming year.